There's 3 total co-defendants. They took the body down to a location near Lake Hartwell, and they disposed of the body by burning the body in a plastic tote. Miss Mims served as a lookout during the burning of the body, and she also was just intimately involved in the process of getting rid of the body.
That was Kendall Mims in court last December for her alleged part in the murder of Jessica Barnes. Now this morning, the man in the middle is due to appear in a courtroom in South Carolina. Brandon Barnes is accused of strangling his wife Jessica to death. Police say it happened last fall at their home, a pool house that belonged to Mims' family. Now prosecutors say that Brandon then got their 2 roommates to help dispose of his wife's body. Now, Barnes admits to having sexual relationships with those 2 roommates, Kendall Mims and Victoria Tippett. And during a chance meeting, Brandon Barnes was interviewed about his wife's disappearance, and this is just days before he became a suspect in her murder. He spoke to Troy Stiles about his last words to his wife.
She cried and told me she loved me. But I didn't think nothing of it. I just thought it was happy tears. I gave her a hug and I said, it's going to be okay. We're gonna get through what you're going through. We're going to get you help if you need it. I'm here for you. I'm supportive. And she knew I had to go to work because money, us, we never had stuff, so we had to work for stuff growing up. So other kids, they have it a little easier and a little boost. We didn't have a boost in life. And I was supporting a baby in Kendall, and Kendall started working, which helped a lot. But it was just trying to set a goal of getting us out of the house so me and her could start a life together. And Kendall knew that after the end of the year, I would separate to be with Jessica. And I would definitely visit my little girl when I can.
So that was the plan?
That was the plan, was to have a life with Jessica. Her mom always thought it wasn't. Her mom never believed. It was always judgmental. I always wanted a life with Jessica. I wanted it just to be me and her. But I was always broke. I didn't have no money. Couldn't afford a house. Didn't have good credit. I just wish I could have given her the world.
You know, it seems based on his interview with Troy that this guy was all about making excuses. I'm going to play a little bit more of what he said for you now. Take a listen.
I was traumatized as a kid and stuff, and my childhood was never really, I wasn't raised proper. I wasn't taught, hey, this is wrong, this is right. But I grew up knowing what I knew that was wrong and right, but I wasn't disciplined growing up much. But after Catherine, I chose for a better life, and that was what I was going for, and I've been doing good. The only problem I have is a big sex addiction, and that's one thing I learned when I was going through my alleged punishment in jail with Catherine. And there was a class in there about it, and I didn't even know it was even a thing until later when I got out and I started getting a little older and I started realizing, you got a problem with sex. But I really thought nothing of it. I thought it was normal, but deep down it ruins relationships.
My goodness, this guy making all kinds of excuses. He was traumatized as a kid. He's a sex addict. And remember, at this point in time, when he's talking to Troy, Jessica is still missing, and he has not been charged with her murder. So let's bring back in journalist Troy Stiles. He's also the family spokesperson now for Jessica Barnes's family. So Troy, I want to start with how Brandon, what was it like? Let's talk about what was it like being in the room with him, talking to Victoria, talking to Kendall, the lovers and the roommates, all prior to the time that they became criminal defendants.
Yeah, well, as you said, they are criminal defendants now, but at that time they were just suspects and hadn't actually even been named as suspects in this case. Jessica was still missing, and it's kind of by chance that I encountered them in the town square. They had recently just fled to Colorado and then immediately came right back, and then I just saw this guy hanging a poster and went and asked him if he was Brandon Barnes. When he said he was, asked I interview him and get us out of this story, and we sat down in the middle of the night in the middle of the town square. It's a small town, under 4,000 people, and you can hear the crickets in the back background, and an owl shows up and starts hooting in the tree. I mean, it was just a bizarre scenario, but I really let Brendan take control of this first interview as I was trying to build a rapport with him, to try to get him to open up to me. And you'll hear that as we go through the audio. It was quite bizarre.
It really was. And love what you asked him. I want to listen to his response when you asked him about how he would feel if they found his wife, Jessica.
But if you find out that something bad's happened to her, I mean, and Kendall's in North Carolina, I mean, who do you have? Like, how are you going to handle that?
I wouldn't think like that. Honestly, deep down, I don't want to get into those thoughts, but deep down, I would break down. I'd break down bad.
What did you think of his response, Troy?
Well, I wasn't sure really what to make of it, but I knew that everything that he was saying was just fabricated in his own mind, and everything was about him. Anything that I asked him about Jessica or anything about his, her feelings for him, it just all circled back around him and his abuse, and nothing about Jessica. So, I mean, she's the victim in this case, and she's missing. I mean, how would you feel if your wife goes missing, right? Well, he didn't have anything to say about his emotions about her being missing. He just had to say about his emotions, about how the people were looking at him in the town, and just really what people's perspective was of him. He didn't care anything about Jessica being missing.
Wow. Troy, what is Jessica's family thinking about all of this, about what is this sick, disgusting plot, if you will? We have a homicide and we have a cover-up, and police have charged them all. What is the family's reaction?
Julie, they burned her body completely, and they don't have all of Jessica back yet. She's evidence in this case. And so as we proceed into these hearings, which is the first time Brandon and the other defendants in this case have actually been into the courtroom, it's jarring for the family. The only thing they have left of Jessica is her Bible, which Brandon found a letter in her Bible addressed to him that she wasn't supposed to find for 10 years. But the family is riveted in this case. They're horrified at how she died, the abuse that led up to her murder, and the fact that they saw her go through all of this abuse, and to know that she died at the hands of Brandon Barnes, her abuser, it's just shaking.
Brandon, it's hard not to cry tears when you hear what you just said, that all the family has is her Bible.
Yeah, Julie. I mean, he burned everything that she had, all of her possessions. Jessica had actually left Brandon the night before. He said he didn't want her anymore, and she left. She had it. She went to her mom's house, and her things were on her porch, and they actually transported Jessica to the hospital. And she should have been under a psychiatric hold, but she wasn't. And Brandon was able to catch back up to her. He took her to his house, and then we learned that he actually murdered her the next day. So it's horrifying, and it seems that it could have been prevented. There were so many warning signs in this case. She actually was pregnant before this murder and lost her baby to fetal decomposition. But many have alleged that he beat the baby out of her, and we don't have any evidence of that. And of course, he's not charged in that as a crime or as a suspect. But there's so much abuse in this case, Julian. What we're learning is that fatal strangulation is a common occurrence. And if you have ever been strangled by your partner, you're 800 times more likely to die by homicide. So this is something that is in all of our headlines across the country. And South Carolina is the only state in the nation that doesn't have legislation to support non-fatal strangulation, which we need very desperately in South Carolina.
Wow. That's a segment for another day. I'm so glad you mentioned that, Troy. Certainly a sign of lethality in a relationship, as you said, if there's strangulation. Tell me, when we think about these other two women, let's go through them. So talking first about Kendall and then Victoria. Brandon has a child with Kendall, but my understanding, Troy, he lied to his wife, Jessica, and said that the baby was his niece because he lied and said that Kendall was actually his sister. Do I have that right?
You do, Julie. In fact, Kendall lied as well and kept the front up that that she was his sister. And then Jessica later, of course, found out that the child that she was giving birth to was in fact Brandon's. So, that's what I think has captured everybody's attention is, the people in this case, the characters and them living together and that sort of thing. And Brandon is like this playboy. But all Jessica wanted to be was a good wife. And the only thing she wanted, she had this whole list of things that she wrote out that she wanted to give. And the only thing she wanted was one thing, that was to be loved. And Brendan wouldn't do that. So as far as Kendall goes, Kendall, she's a great girl. She's smart. She wants to be a prostheticist. And, she had plans of going to college and she knew exactly what she wanted to do. And Julie, the question's out there, is she a victim too? So victimization can cause a lot of times people to become suspects or criminals. So, while she's charged in this case with misprision of a felony and obstruction of justice, we're not sure that she's not a victim herself.
Oh, that's an interesting take. Troy, I appreciate that. And when you look at this from Jessica's perspective, because it seems weird as we look at it from the outside, these people living together and he's having sex with all of them. But from Jessica's perspective, she's convinced Kendall is his sister and the baby is her niece. And then Victoria's her friend, right? Troy, Victoria was actually Jessica's friend first.
No. So Kendall and Brandon lived together first, and then Victoria was kind of the fresh person on the scene. Victoria was only there for just a few weeks before this murder occurred. So I think that was a dynamic that caused the abuse and possibly, the relationship to shift so much there when it did. And in a second interview that I conducted with them, they kind of elaborate deeper into that. But yeah, Kendall was there first, and they actually lived in Kendall's grandfather's pool house. And I think Kendall's family felt like this was a safer situation for Kendall to be in, where she could be, under the eyes of her grandfather, who actually played a very instrumental role in, tracking them, along with, he placed trackers in the car and he was able to give that as evidence to authorities. And that's how we were actually able to locate her body. But yeah, Victoria kind of showed up right before Jessica's murder. And, my part 2 of our interview is not out yet, but I asked Victoria in part 2, are you a mean girl? She seems like a very mean girl. She has no empathy at all for Jessica being missing. And we later found out that she was actually in the room and witnessed Jessica's murder. And the whole time in these interviews, there's a lot of laughing. It's aggravating to listen to, even myself.
Oh my gosh. This is a horrifying case, and you certainly have so much inside scoop. Troy Stiles, we appreciate you sharing all of this. And of course, at the forefront of our reporting here on Opening Statements is the victim, Jessica Barnes. And please let us know how her family is doing, and we'll continue the conversation as these cases progress. As you know, Troy, Brandon Barnes is going to be in court this morning at 10 a.m. And so we're going to watch some of his proceedings together. Troy Stiles, a big thank you to you for coming on the program and sharing your interviews with us.